Today we'll be discussing a very interesting topic, which is simply it's from intent to increment, how to learn, build, and launch in 2026. So, like I said, it is February, the month where the New Year resolutions go to die. A lot of us by November, December 2025, we're planning that, okay, yeah, come 2026, I'm going to learn that too. I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to build that thing. I'm going to deploy that stuff. In fact, by the end of January 2026, we would be in mid-production. And, we had all these big plans and big resolutions on things we want to learn, things we want to do. But then we find ourselves in this situation. It's February. And it's the month where a lot of New Year resolutions go to die, right? And a lot of us listening will be like, okay, in 2026, we're going to deploy that thing. And yet we are still in February and you've not really done anything. In fact, your GitHub repository is empty. You've not even tried to push one code. Or maybe you've even watched like 20 hours or 40 hours or 50 hours of tutorials, but you haven't even written a single line of production code. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. And like I said, it's simply that we want to, the topic is we want to take it from intent, whatsoever you intend in your mind based on your New Year resolution, and we want to increment that intent. So we're going to be discussing on how to stop planning to build and actually start building to ship.
Yeah, the February slump. I think we need to normalize this feeling though. Like why do people stop in February? So I believe it's a gap between taste and skill. You have good taste, you know what a good app looks like, but when you actually sit down to write the code, the first thing you build looks terrible. And then you get discouraged. Also, the plan is seductive. It feels good to write a roadmap. It feels like work, but planning isn't building.
Okay, so if I should just pick up from there, planning isn't building. And a lot of us, one of the plans we have is that we want to learn a whole bunch of stuff first before we start building. And a major mistake I see is that people think that they need to master an entire stack before they start building a project. And they'll be like, oh, I need to finish this 40 hours React course before I can start my to-do app syndrome, Right, in 2026, but right, in 2026, the tech moves fast for that. You can't afford to be spending 40 hours on just tutorial courses. You cannot front load all your learning. You have to learn just in time. You have to learn what you need at that point for the projects you are doing. And to take, for example, you want to build an app that's maybe, let's say, analyzes, predicts what to wear based on the temperature, right? You can do a whole lot of things, but the first thing you'd even need to do is to say, okay, I need an API that can capture the weather forecast, that can capture the weather, and how can I even use an API? Let's say you're a beginner. So the first question is, how can I even use an API? Or let's even say you don't even know what an API is. Let's say your 2026 resolution is that you want to get into tech, and you said, okay, so let's assume that you don't even know what API is. Then the first question is, how can I even capture the current temperature or the current weather condition in my app, right? How can I do that? And that question will lead you to go learn about API, about how to import it and all of those things. So what I'm saying is you have to learn. You can't just afford to be spending a whole lot of time front loading your learning. You have to learn on the go. So don't just learn how to use Python, learn how to use Python to script a website, because that's the future you're going to need. Learn how to use Python to grab the API data, and that is the future you're going to need for your app.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to the next uh, phase, which is like using AI and co-pilots, using tools in 2026. We have to like mention the tools we have now. If you're building in 2026, without some form of like AI coding assistance, you're playing on hard mode for obviously no reason, because people are starting to adopt these tools and they're moving faster. They're pushing things out way more faster than we would normally be doing. So if you're still kind of like stuck on the syntax, you're wasting time. Your job as an entrepreneur isn't to like memorize syntax, is to solve logic problems. So here's a controversial take. Like I'll even go a step further. If you've not started yet, maybe you shouldn't be coding at all yet. Have you built the prototype in Figma? Have you used no code tools to even test your idea? Prototype it, because with Figma you can even put together a prototype and get people to actually even use your app or your idea and see if it even makes sense. So like I have mentioned previously in an episode, is like if you're kind of waiting for some form of perfect system before you push out, these are things that we have first-hand experience in, and some of these things we've done in the past, and we now know, oh, this doesn't actually work. If you're trying to get everything perfect and you don't push it out, it's going to cost you a whole lot of money, rather than always validating and then validating and validating and building incrementally instead of all at once.
Yeah, and as they say, if you're not ashamed of your first deployment, then you're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
You normally say that also.
Yes.
Yes. So, and the idea is simple. If you're trying to build something perfect, you never get there, right? But you deploy it first. Then you'll be like, okay, this is not good enough. How can I improve it? How can I make it better? As I would like to say in computer science, algorithm, if you've taken some algorithm courses and you're trying to solve a problem, let's say, not to get too technical with computer science term, let's say the problem is going to take you n squared. Well, let's say it's going to take you, not to get too technical, let's say it's going to take you 1 million seconds. Then we ask, can you make it better? Then you think that, okay, instead of 1 million seconds, can I slash that down, do a slash down by 100, and okay, fine, it's going to take 100 seconds, 100,000 seconds. And the next question is that, can it even be better? And you iterate till you get to an optimal solution for the problem. That same idea applies in an entrepreneurial mindset. You must have an incremental mindset. You can't just sit down and say, okay, I need to know everything, then I arrive at the optimal solution. It doesn't work like that. You need to start building and ask yourself, you need to build, deploy, then ask yourself, how can I make this better? Right? Once you deploy, once you deploy, it's start to provide value. Then you start seeing the issues, the real life issues that people are having with your MVP, with your products. They will give you some feedback, and then with the feedback, you can improve what you've worked on. And to just try to emphasize on that a little bit, some people's minimum viable product, MVP, is too big, is way too big. They want to have login, payments,
Yeah.
dashboard.
Let me pause you on that.
Yeah.
We once had like a client that did just this and then called it an MVP and wasn't going to even pay for it because they felt it was an MVP. They had this UI UX person drop this entire application, mobile app, desktop app, everything with the UI UX perfect, pick perfect, and then they say this MVP. Like, no, that's not an MVP. That's a version 10. That's what you do after you've gotten your first 100 customers.
Customers,
You're
yeah.
doing something that you have to wait until then to do.
Yes, exactly. So That MVP you're thinking and you're trying to build everything, cut it down. Cut it down. Can you build a script that runs locally on your machine and solve the problem you have in mind? If it does, good. Can you deploy it? If you can, good. Then increment. So that is exactly what we mean by increment. So if you plan to launch, let's say for example, some people already say, okay, I'm going to spend the first half of 2026 to develop this project, and I'm going to launch in June, July. If you plan to do that and you don't have an incremental mindset, you're trying to make everything perfect, you will fail because there's no perfect point. Even till now, to just give you an example of that, till now, you're still sending software updates to your laptops, to your phone. If it was perfect, they would never send that. So if big tech companies can still be sending you updates to update your software, to update your computer, and next year they bring another more powerful laptop. Currently, for a MacBook, they're at M5. So if this year they bring M5, last year it was M4, if they're still iterating on what they've built, I'm sorry, who are you not to iterate on what they're going to do, right? So if you really plan to launch something, then you need to start from somewhere. You need to really start, even if it's just the landing page, even if it's a single feature, you need to start. Like, say that, okay, by next week, Saturday, I want to have developed this landing page, and you stick to that.
Yeah. So, like, here's a challenge for everyone listening. Just deploy your Hello World. Seriously, set up your Vassal, your AWS, your Oracle, whatever. Just get a blank page live on the internet. Once that pipeline is built, then you can start pushing your updates. It's easy. The fear is just the first deployment.
Yeah. And so just to give more strategy on that is, instead of you to say, okay, I will work on it next week, and something about time management and planning is, instead of saying, I will start working on it next week, start working on it this week. Look at your week. We have 27 hours in a week. Out of that 24 times 7 hours, I think around 168 hours, around that time. So out of that hours, even if you can dedicate, let's say, 5 hours in the entire week to work on it, good. Now, for some people, consistency is key. So if you can say, okay, I'm going to work on it 2 hours every day, that is good. Some people can. So when I say consistency is always key everywhere, right? But let me explain what I mean. What I mean is that some people can sit down at a stretch for 10 hours and complete a whole lot of stuff. Whereas some people prefer to sit down, come back to it tomorrow, do a little bit, come back to it tomorrow. So understand your own style and work towards that. And even if you can do something and sit down for it do something by sitting down on it for 10 hours, it is still key that you maintain that every week. So it's not just enough to say, I'm going to do 10 hours of coding this weekend and I'm not going to touch it again till ending of February. It's not going to work like that, right? So you have to zero in during the week, maybe on weekend, and say, okay, I have blocked this out just for me to build this. And I like the non-zero day rule. Write one line of code, read one documentation page. Just don't let the day be zero. And in case you you go out in the morning, spend all day, right? And you come back and you're tired. So what do you do? And it's already the next day in the morning. Even if it's one line of code, trust me, and this is something I've tested. Even if it's one line of code, write it. And when you write it, you see that before you know it, you've done a whole lot of things you've done a whole bunch of coding without even realizing how the little drops of water you're adding has accumulated so much.
Yeah. And with regards to like accountability, like you need a shipping buddy, not just a friend to vent to, but someone people ask, did you push that commit? Just to keep track of things. And that's particularly one of the problems we're trying to solve with our developer labs department of the company, which is the Q Labs, where we have a community of builders, a community of engineers, as well as product designers who kind of in the industry as well. Like they're experiencing things the way you also experience the stress. We even share that sometimes on the group where, oh, this week has been so stressful for me, and things like that. You get to experience the same feeling with other people as well, and the encouragement that comes from that as well. Like you seeing people post about some of the open source projects they're contributing to can also motivate you as well to do something, and also build in public. This is something I try to over stress. Today again, I sent a Medium post to the community about how your resume matters very little in tech, and how people actually get hired in tech. Myself as well, like if I look back, I don't think I really had a job where my resume paid any much difference to. It was basically maybe someone saw the work I was doing at school and they said, oh, this guy is actually pretty good. We can recommend him to my boss. Or you say, oh, I saw your GitHub profile and I like some of the things you've done. Can you come and interview here? Like the CEO would reach out, and then they'll recommend you to other people. So if you're in tech and you're wondering, oh, why am I not being called for interview? Is because in tech, that's not the best way to get hired. It's usually by posting on X, LinkedIn about things you're working on, so you can catch the attention of recruiters, or you just having a strong profile, which is up to date. And then when they're using the recruiter tool, they're able to pick up things that you've posted, things on your profile, your public profile, and then see that, okay, this person does this, and then they would reach out to you. I've gotten messages from people at Google, even Apple, and stuff like that, without even applying myself, just based on my own public work. So sometimes if you even post some of those ugly like screenshots on social media, some people who would even make fun of you, which is what I also mentioned in the last episode, that sometimes your failure is can be a good thing, because it will even motivate you to want to become better. When people laugh at your work, like, yeah, I'm going to fix this and then I'm going to improve on what I already have. So that's the trick to this industry.
Right. So to wrap up, the February slump is just a filter, right? It filters out people who like the idea of being a funder from people who are actually funders, people who wants to build and deploy that project from people that would actually do it. So you have more than 10 months left in February. That's plenty of time for you to build and deploy that idea in your head. But that is only possible if you stop planning and having a seductive plan and not really getting into it and start building. Write that code, do that, complete that project, and increment on it. So thank you everyone once again for tuning in to today's episode, and we're gonna see you next 2 weeks.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and interact. Please, I would encourage you sending us messages, like emails, about what you think. Write the comments. Like we always read the comments and we'll respond to them. So yeah, cheers.